This is a crucial meeting for the National Cabinet today to decide the future of the restrictions right across the country. The Prime Minister walking into the virtual hookup with the state and territory leaders behind me here in Parliament House. The meeting expected to go for several hours as states and territories go through the health advice on a whole range of restrictions that have been imposed on the economy in the last few months. I'll take you through what's on the agenda for today's meeting. The fate of hospitality hangs in the balance. We know that pubs and bars, cafes, restaurants forced to close their doors unless they're able to move to a sort of takeaway model. Will they start to see a move towards indoor dining? When it comes to personal care, beauticians, tanning and nail salons, tattoo parlours, massage and day spas, all forced to close their doors with the thought that it just wasn't possible to have the spatial distancing in those businesses. Indoor gatherings, churches really changing how they conducted services, cinemas and theatres forced to close, and as the Prime Minister called it, one of the toughest restrictions, the limit of 10 people at funerals and also that 5-person limit on weddings. Finally, sport and recreation. It's been on the agenda for a few weeks now, looking at gyms which have been forced to close, boot camps restricted, playgrounds, pools, picnics and sunbaking not allowed, community and elite sport. A lot of people, a lot of big sporting organisations hoping to get a clear roadmap out about when they can return to the field. We've heard from a few state premiers ahead of today's National Cabinet meeting. It's understood that states will be moving at their own pace when it comes to this, given the different caseloads. Here was the New South Wales Premier.
Within that path, every state and every territory has the ability to be flexible within that framework. You can't compare New South Wales to the Northern Territory. You can't compare New South Wales to Tasmania or Western Australia. That's the beauty of the Federation. But the beauty of the National Cabinet is to get some really good advice on what the next batch of easing restrictions will look like and what the next phase after that will be. At least it gives all Australians a vision of the nature of the restrictions that will be eased and what's likely to happen next.
Over in the West, the Premier, Mark McGowan, more optimistic about the path forward for that state. He says they'll look at these baselines agreed to by the National Cabinet today, but it is Sunday that's the important day for WA. That's when the roadmap is going to be provided to that state.
I expect what the Prime Minister will announce is baselines for the entire country within which states can work. Now, clearly, Western Australia has the opportunity to be more economically progressive, perhaps, than other states. The Eastern Seaboard, I expect, will be more conservative, as they have been along this route, but, you know, frankly, they've had a much bigger problem than we have.
Annalise, it's my understanding that the National Cabinet wants to see the health impacts of these restriction relief, doing it in a number of stages to make sure that we don't see this second wave of infections.
Trudy McIntosh, thank you. Danica DeGiorgio is at Bondi. Danica, in terms of outdoor gatherings, it was those packed scenes at Bondi Beach several weeks ago which really sparked the enforcement of these arrangements.
It was, Annalise, and in fact I think that Bondi Beach has really been symbolic of the social distancing journey so far in Australia. You mentioned that photo that was released just a few days after the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, made that initial announcement in regards to the numbers of outdoor gatherings and social distancing. It showed beachgoers packing the sand, seemingly flouting these rules, and it really sent a strong message nationally that it will not be tolerated, that if you are flouting these restrictions then there will be an enforcement of laws and potential penalties. In fact, it was the crowds at Bondi Beach that sparked the draconian measures that we saw by police in a number of states to enforce it. Here in Sydney, our Sky News camera was there the day at Rushcutters Bay, where police were driving onto the grass, telling people who were lying there sunbaking or having a picnic or just going for a general walk that if you're not there for anything else other than an essential purpose, then you need to go home. And so that was really, I think, the first time we saw the enormity of the situation in terms of outdoor and indoor gatherings take place. Now, each state and territory are able to enforce their own rules when it does come to the lockdown. In the Prime Minister's initial announcement, outdoor gatherings were capped at 10, but as the infection rate rose, it was decreased to 2 people unless you are living together. Now, in New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania and the ACT, their indoor gathering numbers are still capped at 2. But in the last couple of weeks, as the infection rate has slowed in parts of the country, we've seen states and territories like the Northern Territory, WA, South Australia and Queensland actually start relaxing some of those restrictions. In fact, gatherings of 10 are allowed in some of those states and territories. Today, though, it is likely the Prime Minister might announce that 10 people will be allowed for outdoor and indoor gatherings just in time for Mother's Day. Some states like New South Wales have already come out saying that that won't happen simply because of the number of infections still in the state. But what we might see as well today, Annalise, is a bit of an indication as well when like outdoor playing areas or outdoor park benches, the real quintessential Australian things that we really, really know and love, when we might be able to have some access to those as well.
Danica DiGiorgio, thank you. Andrea Crothers is in Melbourne. Andrea, beauty therapists and the like are feeling the pinch too.
Absolutely, and this is certainly one industry, Annalise, which isn't hopeful of having those restrictions eased anytime soon, simply due to the fact that obviously the job can't be done without close contact to clients. But like many industries, absolutely shattered when late March they had that really less than a day's notification that they were to shut down. I've been speaking here at a nail salon, Missy Lou, in southeast Melbourne, where we've got a single mum, 3 kids, 8 employees. They had to be put off overnight. A loan was then eventually taken out so that those employees could continue to be paid whilst they waited for JobKeeper payments to flow through. But really, it's just been an extremely tough time for them, like all businesses.
Like, it's just like a sleeping beauty. You sleep in one world and you wake up in another world. You don't know, like, you just been knocked out and have a big sleep for 1 month, and then you just suddenly slowly wake up again. You just scare and worry what's the outcome gonna be.
So Sleeping Beauty, not sure when they're going to wake up. The same for tanning salons, tattoo parlours, all of these places, which also have other risks of a lot of people doing at-home jobs when you think about things such as tattoo guns being bought online, a surge in those sorts of sales. But one of the big areas of the sticking point that's really been around this is that hair salons have been allowed to stay open despite the close contact they do. But as for the owner of this business, well, she had quite a positive view when it came to that.
A little bit frustrating, but it's the government rule, so that's the law, and you have to comply. So it's nothing that you can change. Yeah, you just wish that thing can go back to where it was, and it just hopefully that the government can allow the nail salon can open again.
Now, Hin Fitzpatrick is quite hopeful that her business may be able to reopen end of May, because it's not just about the financial strain, it's also the social strain and just wanting really to see her clients again. This is a business she's had for 5 years now, and while she's hopeful of being able to make it through this tough period, it's obviously something which is going to be very challenging for everyone. Annalise?
Indeed, Andrea Crothers, thank you. Now, Brendan Smith is at Body Fit Training at Albion on Brisbane's north side. Brendan, the fitness industry is really struggling right now. Many operators had to alter their business plans dramatically just to stay open.
Yeah, Annalise, many business owners were given, 24, 48 hours to adapt. This particular business here at Albion has actually moved classes to online Zoom classes. They're doing them right now. And I guess the beauty of this business is that their classes, when restrictions weren't in place, really have been capped because it is a group fitness training gym. But the owner here says that he just is so desperate to get this business back up and running, because it's important to know that across Australia, the fitness industry accounts for around 35,000 full-time jobs and around 4 million memberships. And I spoke to Joel Miranda here, and he just says that he's desperate to get the doors back open.
We had to adapt pretty quickly. We had to lose our staff, but we kind of, BodyFit head office, got a platform out, an online platform pretty quickly, where we could try create the kind of presence that we have in the gym, but online.
Now, important to note, some older gyms simply didn't have the resources to go online, so they've simply shut up shop until these restrictions have been eased. We do know early on that personal trainers were able to meet with just one client out in the open. They're hoping that those restrictions, of course, will be eased today at National Cabinet. At the moment, the industry whisper is that it will likely be around June or July. Joel Miranda is hopeful that won't be the case. He's hoping that it could be in the next few weeks. But of course, gyms also not only provide so many people with jobs here, but mental health as well for clients is really paramount. He says that it's important that clients do get back in the gym to have that one-on-one physical contact with personal trainers.
When something's taken away from you, you don't, you really see how much you miss it. And I think for mental health and sanity, and for not only for members but for people who have lost their jobs as well, it's so important to have that interaction and that community, and have people around you to support you in the gym. It's not the same when it's just online. We kind of need that face-to-face contact and the ability to talk to each other.
So the fitness industry really just waiting with bated breath this afternoon, Annalise, just hoping gyms will reopen in a timely manner.